Hi. This is not the kind of video you expected from me this week, and I feel the same. But I came up with this concept bid fever dream, and I think it might work. So here we are. Also, we're oh no. Also, we're using the tiny microphone today because I'm too tired to speak loud enough for the regular microphone that's all the way over there, and you're not getting good lighting because I'm too tired to be able to lift up my lighting setup. Nor do I want to look into bright lights right now. I turned on my overhead light for you for this, and I have not done that in several days, and I do regret it. Hi, welcome to my floor nest. This is where I've been living because my bed is a loft bed because New York City, and I'm too tired to climb up and down it safely all the time. I've also been sleeping down here, but I stopped doing that after a few nights. Once my full body was concerningly sore, and also I stopped needing to get up every few hours to take Medicaid. I'm a wreck. Anyway, hi. The idea for this video is that obviously I'm sick. It's not COVID, it's not the flu, I don't think it's RSV. I just get completely like whacked in the face and knocked out by colds. It's a fun thing that happens. Though I will say the numbers of those other three things are terrifying and you should wear a mask because wearing a mask is important. For some reason, I only get about one major like respiratory illness cold situation a year. This has been the case since middle school. It used to always happen in March, but then starting in 10th grade, it moved its way to December during the perfect sweet spot between exam week and my birthday, like hitting both at the same time. And now, the first year where I can feasibly get sick during December without worrying about exams, I didn't get it until January. So thank you, universe, and happy new year to you as well. Um, I wrote a script for this, and I am still rambling. That's how that's how this is going. Spectacular. The concept for the video is that I am a disabled person with several chronic illnesses, and I am very used to being sick, but I'm not used to being this kind of sick. And now that I am, for the first time, very sick, but not in a chronic illness way, and also don't have to panic about using my limited energy to complete finals or something, I've been paying attention to my reality and whatnot, and getting, like, existential. I don't know if that made any sense. This was a terrible idea. This was a bad. In general, the idea that illness teaches people things or disability is educational is a really screwed up idea, and I fear that I may be slightly feeding into that trope here. But paying attention to the differences between what I think about how I treat myself and how people treat me in regards to like this cold that I have right now, then when I am dealing with chronic illness flare ups has made me realize things about how I like discredit myself, don't allow myself to be sick or need care or ask for help or use the help I'm given, etc. And I don't know how much this will necessarily change my behavior or not, but it did feel like it started to like chip away at something. I don't know, something deep seated in an internalized ableism realm. I'm fascinated by it, so we're gonna talk a little bit about it today. I don't know if it's gonna be helpful for people or educational or teach you something about what it's like to be chronically ill. I don't even know if this video has made any sense thus far, but I cannot afford to do another week without a video, and I feel like maybe a little sit down and chat moment from my floor nest is what we could all use right now. Also, on the topic of illness shouldn't teach people stuff, and thinking that it inherently does is very like, well, this thing really sucks, but it has a silver lining, and therefore it's actually a good thing and your trauma isn't valid. A few weeks ago, I genuinely heard somebody talk about how COVID made them severely ill and that taught them so many important lessons about life, and they felt so blessed by it, and they hope that everybody else could feel just as blessed by COVID as she was, and I'm still in shock as to the fact that a real person thought that that was an appropriate thing to say to other people. That relates to nothing else in this video. I just needed somebody to know that that happened because there are simply no words. Also, if you're new here, hi, my name is Sydney. My pronouns are they, them. My channel used to focus on personal lived experience and then transitioned hard into being like analyzing media and disability history, accessible education, debunking popular psychology, which all of it, I think that's valuable, but also those are the most fun to research, so that's why. But I do think personal and social commentary is interesting, and I don't do enough of it, so I'm gonna try to lean more in that direction a little bit more. The next two videos on my list are doing that if I stay with the schedule I currently have, which I'm already not doing by making this video. But I don't want to move things further out because I already rescheduled. Anyway, we'll see. Clearly, I'm taking things day by day because we don't know what's Now, for reference, the kind of major few things that impact my day-to-day life are my chronic migraines, which include abdominal migraines, and if you don't know what those are, you don't want to. They're exactly what they sound like, and they're very messy. My severe IBS that's made my body completely intolerant to like 12 different foods, and the list is still growing, and we don't quite know why. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which can cause migraines, but also random numbness and chest pain, and also just like passing out a lot, and something in the EDS hypermobility category. So my joints hurt all the time, randomly sublux and slightly dislocate, normal, good, and healthy things for bodies to do. Most of this has gotten a whole heck of a lot better now that I'm able to cook all my own food for the first time, but throughout college and my younger life, I was sick, like, all the time to some degree, right? Yeah. My head, for example, has hurt nonstop since the 6th grade, which was like, I would be in, so 13, 14, 15, I would be in 17th grade, but my head has hurt for over a decade. That's horrifying. Oh my gosh. So my head has hurt nonstop for over a decade. And then I was also like at college getting sick from my college dining hall like twice a week, which then set off the joints to be worse. And so in a lot of places in my body, I can handle amounts of pain that would put the average human in the hospital without more than like guess I'm a little sore today. That's rocky. And then just like move on, which is concerning. It is very, very concerning, but let's not think about it too hard because you should never think about it too hard. Just don't do it. Anyway, the moment my throat starts hurting, however, that's it. That is the end for me. I can't do it. I won't do it. Absolutely not. I can partially dislocate a joint. I can pop that joint back into place and then go on using it without asking any questions. But the moment swallowing hurts, the tiniest bit, I become a baby. And honestly, why am I popping joints back in and going on with my day like nothing just happened when I deserve to wallow in how terrible everything in my body feels all the time? Why can't I have that? Why am I not allowed that? I mean, the obvious answer is like sustainability, in that I cannot recall a time when I have not been in pain, and if I reacted to it every single time with the amount of like care and attention that I probably should pay to it, that would be unsustainable and take up 90% of my time as a person, and also like make my anxiety absolutely skyrocket, and I wouldn't be able to do all the things I both want and need to do to survive as a person. So I've learned to just get over it and move on, because capitalism. And also, I don't like being babied when I have things go wrong, because it's so normal for me and not a big deal, and if I start to act like it's as concerning as it genuinely is, then I start to panic, and nobody likes that. And I just like genuinely, I generally get really uncomfortable when people make my disabilities like a big deal. We're going to unpack that situation in a hot second. What I'm trying to say here is that we don't give chronically ill folks enough credit. Please don't compliment disabled people on how well they handle being disabled or how hard their lives must be because of it or whatever, because our lives are valid and valuable, and you complimenting us on handling something that we just like have to deal with every day feels really weird and patronizing and often ableist. But from like purely the perspective of how we treat people, my throat hurts really bad, which I'm trying to deal with so that I can eat food and function as a person, and that has caused me to get like a day behind on emails, maybe 2 days behind on emails, and that is perfectly reasonable and understandable. So why are we yelling at chronically ill folks for doing the same thing? Just because we deal with the stuff every single day doesn't mean we have it perfectly under control all the time. That feels like kind of an absurd assumption to make. What I find really interesting is I have a few non-disabled friends who get sick like once a month, and everybody is understanding of them and tells them to take time off of work, and if they're a day late on something, it's okay and whatnot. And then my chronic illness flare-up days and whatnot are identical to the amount of time that they're sick, and I get told that it's my fault and I need to manage myself better, and I get punished or yelled at for taking time off to get better. Actually, one semester I took a class with one of those friends, and I had flexible attendance as an accommodation and she didn't, and we missed the exact same number of classes, and she missed more assignments than I did, and I was the only one who got points off and was punished for it. So like, why do we do this to people? This is what the other thing about being sick right now is like, I didn't realize how ingrained the bootstraps mentality of like sort it out and get over it, you've got stuff to do, was in me. Like growing up, it was always, I understand your tummy hurts, but you get nervous a lot, and if you get nervous about something and then you let it be the reason you don't do it, it'll be even harder next time. So why don't you just try to go to school, and then if you feel really bad later, you can go to the nurse's office, which is true. I did get nervous tummy a lot, and truly if I stayed home every single time that my tummy hurt, I probably would have missed like a third of the school year. But also, like, on the other side of that, I then got really good at just like muscling through things by sheer force of will, or when I got headaches, I would just like take pain medication and go through my day pretty much every single day. But then I got freaked out by the amount of medication that I was taking. So then I started limiting myself, which then made every single time an argument of like, okay, but is it really that bad? Are you really in that much pain? How do I know I won't have a worse one tomorrow that I need to save my weekly medication for? Which eventually found its way into me today as a person who refuses to take any ibuprofen or Tylenol or anything for any body pain unless I literally cannot see, or it's my throat apparently. If it's my throat, I don't care anymore. All those rules went straight out the window real quick. Now, I'm torn because it's amazing how warm coughing makes you. I'm torn because muscling through stuff isn't necessary in a world in which we live because people got things to do. And I'm glad that it's a skill that I have because it has also taught me like resiliency and flexibility in other realms of life. And without that skill, I would not have graduated high school, much less college. But also, why am I proud of that wasn't a sentence. Why am I proud of how good I am at completely ignoring what my body is trying to tell me? And why is that more generally actively encouraged? Because that's horrifying. But the other thing that I didn't realize tied so heavily into that is how much of that's like wrapped up in the fear of not being allowed to do things because of my disabilities. Like, yes, if you, I don't know, threw up at work one day and your boss encourages you to go home and go to bed, and they say like, oh, I'll finish the day's work for you, and you're like, thanks so much, I feel terrible, bye, and you go home and you go splat in your bed and fall asleep immediately. But like when you're chronically ill, it becomes an eye roll, oh, this again, and they start assigning all the projects to everybody else without your permission, and everybody gives you the energy that you're less in the workplace because of it, or you're a burden, to the point where you can't tell if they're like genuinely concerned about you and willing to help you, or if people are just being patronizing and ableist and not thinking you're capable of handling anything on your own. That happens a lot. And since chronic illness is, by definition, chronic, so it happens a lot, we like to make sure we don't lose everything, get really good at hiding it and pretending that we're fine when we're not fine, and just kind of muscling through because we feel like if we don't do that, we won't be taken seriously or given any opportunities. The whole situation where some people will like baby and dote on chronically ill people as a method of coercive control is also a thing, but that's not something everybody has issues with, so we're not gonna delve into that right now. But it does play into why I feel uncomfortable when somebody treats my medical issues as if they're really concerning and treats me with all the love and care I deserve as a human being. We're not going to unpack that today. There's also the whole thing about it being chronic where, because it happens so much, people don't believe you that you're actually experiencing it. They think that you're faking, they refuse to help you when you ask, etc. Which further enforces your idea of like the thought process of like, oh, it must not be that bad then, or oh, I shouldn't take time off this time because I don't really need it. It could be worse, which then continues this feeling of like needing to push through. Or the thing that I struggle most with, which is the added anxiety and grief that comes along with a flare-up that's like, oh, this could be permanent and my new normal now, or things could get worse from here. Who knows? Because I've had like one surprise bad migraine day turn into a full 3 weeks of being able to barely get myself meals without needing a nap because of how much pain I was in. And it sucks, and it becomes fully impossible. That's not a word. It becomes fully impossible to like rest, relax, recover, because you start to wonder if you'll be stuck like this forever. And for me at least, I usually need to distract my way out of that anxiety, which I distract myself by doing work. Shocking. Which negates the whole, hey Sydney, you need to stop and rest thing. Also, the amount of how much during a flare-up I force myself to like get dressed and get up and do my day thing to try to trick my brain into thinking that it's okay, because sometimes that just tricks my body into genuinely being okay. And that makes me feel better, and I never know where the line between, like, I need to do nothing to take care of myself, and taking care of myself is forcing myself to do something is. Like, I don't know where that line exists. I'm still really bad at that, you know? My current, whatever, the sick situation that I have right now did start out as a migraine, like, randomly out of the blue. I had been nearly successfully handling my autistic burnout, which is what the next video is about, and we're going to talk about the different types of rest in that video, so this actually kind of dovetails with that, but I was feeling frustrated by how like exhausted I still was, even though I was doing a great job. And then one day I woke up with big migraine, and my immediate thought was pride that I hadn't had one since I moved to New York City in 6 months. Look at me taking good care of myself. But then the follow-up was like, did I overdo it over the holidays? Is this because of that? Did I mess up? Am I going to throw 3 months, am I going to throw 6 months of healing out the window? How is this going to affect my career? How bad is it going to be this time? I really can't handle another relapse right now. Like all of that, spirally, whatever. And then the next day I woke up completely congested. So then I started to panic panic that it was COVID because I don't want long COVID and I also don't want to die. So that became the next piece of stress. One would think that would negate the first piece of stress, but a lot of times I've gotten like sick, like cold respiratory in the past, and that has triggered a chronic illness relapse because the rest of my body feels left out, I guess, and just decides like join in on the fun. But after 2 days of symptoms and consistently negative tests, as well as a complete dissipation of all of the various migraine and other chronic illness symptoms I had in day one, I realized that I was just regular sick and that was all, and that was okay. And then also, like, in 2 weeks I'll forget that this ever happened and it won't really matter and it won't be permanent. And what made my gears start to turn about all the things that I've like spoken about in this video thus far is that I felt relaxed by that knowledge. Like, yes, being sick right now sucks. It's not fun. My to-do list and my 4 calendars are in absolute utter shambles at the moment, and it is stressing me out, but I know it'll all get done when it needs to because it always does. But I'm also pretty sure that what I'm experiencing right now is not going to last forever in a way that I just don't know when I'm having a chronic illness flare-up. Also, everybody in my life believes that I am sick. I cannot gaslight myself out of it either, because what kind of non-sick person uses a full box of tissues in one day? I didn't feel like a burden on people around me in the way I usually do when I'm having issues. When my roommate asked me if I wanted anything from the store, I asked them for a box of mac and cheese because I really wanted it, even though I'm allergic to mac and cheese, and I didn't feel like I was being too needy. It was great. I took pain medication without stressing about whether my pain was bad enough to warrant it. I also let myself rest. I laid on the floor for 3 days. It was wild. Like, I feel terrible, but I'm starting to sort of kind of have a little fun. Like, I'm actually allowed to be sick for the first time since I was fairly young, before homework and the risk of getting behind on school became a major concern. Nobody's pressuring me to push myself through. It's just me, my bowl of soup, my humidifier with googly eyes on it. His name's Mr. Humdiddy. This floor nest, a lot of pain that I was doing my best to ignore and not do a great job of it, and truly way too many Jenny Nicholson videos for one period of time. I watched H-Bomber Guy's like 4-hour YouTuber plagiarism thing. Spectacular. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. I also reorganized my computer desktop. I made some new playlists because my Subway playlist was getting stale, and I just existed. I was a potato, and it was okay. Which I acknowledge is a privilege that comes along with, like, I work in a gig industry. I'm between gigs right now, so I can afford to do this. If this had happened a few weeks ago, I would have been ultimately screwed. And many employed folks cannot do what I'm doing right now. But I didn't realize how much the weight of, like, this is your fault that you feel this way, and we don't believe you that you feel as bad as you think you do, and you need to get over it, really sits on my shoulders and impacts how I behave and how I treat myself, until I, for one very pain-medicated and fairly dissociated day that I don't entirely remember, didn't experience any of that stress on my shoulders. Or if I did, I was just too tired to care about it or feel its weight on my shoulders, because I've been living on this hardwood floor with these 3 pillows for 3 days, and my body is real sore. So I couldn't notice the stress on my shoulders because the rest of me also hurts. But anyway, those are the thoughts that have been rattling in my little brain the last few days. If anything, it's really reminding me about, like, the absolute strength of chronically ill people in a non-patronizing, like, wow, I've been so busy living that I haven't thought about it before kind of way, from, like, a personal lived experience angle, but also the absolute strength of humans in general, because we live in a world where we are fundamentally told that we need to ignore what our bodies and minds are telling us because that isn't, like, helpful for the greater good or something. But I would argue that it is the greater good to let people live in a way that is true to who they are and what they need. And you know, like, and haven't we as disability advocates been constantly saying that rest in itself is resistance? Like, rest is resistance is a whole thing. It feels weird to argue that there's anything revolutionary about putting aside my to-do list for the day and instead choosing to watch a bad movie, but, like, it kind of is. Like, anyway, a running joke amongst my friend group is that I've really picked up steam as this video has gone on. I feel like I started out way sicker than I ended, and I'm starting to question how sick I actually feel today, and we were internalized ableism free for just a little bit there. We can go back to it. Anyway, a running joke amongst my friend group is that everything around Sydney must be fundamentally accessible for every single person around them, with the exception of Sydney. It's kind of my thing. I'm known for it. The behind the scenes of that is the knowledge that, like, spending most of my life as a chronically ill person and not being believed, I've learned the give and take and how to pace myself. I have a video about that up here if you want to watch it. I've learned how to, like, include little pieces of rest when and where I can, so that what you see is my constant 150% Energizer Bunny output is actually ever, like, 60 to 70% of what I can actually give. But still, they're not wrong. The activist life is a fundamentally unsustainable one, and I do it anyway because I know it makes my community a little bit better, and I can always stand to like put some of my access needs aside to help make sure other people get them instead, and mine are not that big of a deal. And my friends have kind of given up trying to bully me out of doing that because I am too stubborn for my own good, in case you haven't figured that one out yet. But I'm also starting to realize that maybe all the stuff I say about the human cost of ableism also maybe applies to me a little bit more than I thought that it did, because this is the first time in a really long time that I watched a movie for fun that wasn't something I needed to review, and I didn't feel bad about myself not being productive, because how am I supposed to be productive when my head's full of cotton balls and my throat is full of shards of glass? Who in their right mind would expect me to be productive under those circumstances? But I'm so used to trying and failing to be productive under those circumstances, and then beating myself up over not doing a good enough job of it, without realizing that rest is productive, and doing nothing is productive, and also that one's productivity does not equal their worth, which I say every single day because I'm a disability advocate, but I cannot take my own frickin' advice in the slightest, and I know this, but I ignore it anyway, because I'm me. I kind of assumed that I had the rest-non-rest ratio sorted, but now that I have been forced to completely rest for a period of time, I've been thinking that maybe my ratio is actually just the bare minimum required to keep me going, rather than, like, the amount of rest that a human needs to healthily live, and maybe rest, quote-unquote, that is actually punctuated by me being anxious about what I need to get done next once I am done resting is not actually real rest that is actually really restful. Is this outlook on life going to last once I'm no longer sore from coughing? Questionable, but I do feel like it definitely dislodged maybe something. Maybe, I don't know. Or at least maybe there's other stubborn people watching who are really great at helping other disabled people take care of themselves, but fundamentally refuse to do it for themselves and can use a little call out. In which case, I further prove my point that I can only do things for myself if it somehow relates to helping others do things. Dang it. I am going to consider this silly little existential crisis of a video in my pajamas as my penance for that. I have to sneeze, but I can't. This is upsetting to me. I think I'm going to leave this one here. Let me know your thoughts, or if you've even found this to make any sense truly at all, in the comments. No, it's not. That was so upsetting. You're also welcome to subscribe if you want. This is not my normal content, but you can subscribe. Also wear a mask if I haven't said that already. I think that I have, but please do that. Being sick is terrible. Getting your loved ones sick is worse. So take care of yourselves. And also, you don't need an explanation as to why you wear a mask. You can literally just put one on your face. Nobody cares. I personally enjoy them. They keep me safe, but I also enjoy that, like, I don't have to worry about what facial expressions I'm making at all times. It has taken the amount of energy I put into trying to look neurotypical, like, down a massive notch. Also, if you're wondering, the movie I watched for fun was Enola Holmes. The pacing was really wonky and the writing was not spectacular, but I still had a great time. Anyway, I'm sleepy, so this was my output for today, and I hope you liked it. That's all I got. Great. Okay, bye.